Hi folks, welcome back to the Wee Gleska podcast. The term narcissist gets flung around a lot for people's shitty behaviour towards others, but it's important for you to know if you do have a narcissist in your life, what kind you're dealing with. We know that they all have similar behaviour traits at the very core, which is a maladaptive personality style. They invalidate others, they lack empathy, they have superficial charm, they are cruel, they are vindictive, they exploit others for their own gratification, but as a whole they are insidious abusers. Let's dive into the school of narcs and what their characteristics look like. The first one is the grandiose narc. This type is loud, attention-seeking, very charming, charismatic, highly driven and successful. They take good care of their appearance. They are somewhat glamorous. Internally they think they are better than everyone else and people are beneath them. They believe they are worshipped and loved by all. They fool people into believing they have a really attractive personality. But what lies beneath that facade is in fact an insidious personality and a deep core of shame. The grandiosity becomes a psychological costume, and this is to hide their fragile self-esteem, emptiness, and undeveloped inner identity. Their lifelong stage performance helps them to keep their vulnerability buried within. The grandiosity of self helps to protect them from fear of exposure. They will never be seen to the outside world as ordinary or flawed. The second type is your covert narcissist. The covert narc is very different from the grandiose, loud, spotlight-seeking type. Let's say if the grandiose was the peacock strutting through the courtyard for all to admire, the covert narc is the shadow behind the curtain for sure. They insist they are the most misunderstood people on the planet. They still carry the same narcissistic core, but their expressions are quieter, defensive, and inwardly dramatic. The covert narc is highly skilled at fooling people around them that they are a nice, calm person that just had a bad childhood. They come across as socially awkward, anxious, sullen, moody and sad. They are highly sensitive. They are easily offended. They don't dominate others, they play victim. Their silent treatments are exhausting. Nothing is ever direct, but you will feel the shift in your nervous system when you are around them. They are chronically insecure. They feel inferior and unappreciated by society. They feel overlooked and they get emotionally wounded by others. They don't loudly claim superiority. They privately believe they deserve more recognition. They think they're a special breed. They think people are shallow and they have no empathy for others, and they see themselves as uniquely insightly people. The grandiose openly dominates, whereas the covert narc gain emotional control through victimhood and their patterns of passive guilt, blame shifting, silent resentment and withdrawal. You don't see explosive rage, and this is where it gets confusing. They don't seem unhinged or dangerous, but they are highly dangerous, because the harm doesn't arrive in an obvious way. It quietly moves through like a chill in the air. They hold a deep envy of others' success and bitterness towards confident people. They behave badly when there isn't an audience, and they punish through withdrawal of love and connection. They display extreme emotional coldness. They will emotionally invalidate their children, and silence is their deadliest weapon of control. The third type is your communal narc. This school of narcissist is your sneaky one, because this type is often your pillars of their community. They are volunteers who occupy spiritual and cult spaces. They often organise big fundraising events, raising thousands for charities, and to the outside world they look like the nicest person in the world. They're always helping, always giving, and always there for everyone. In fact, you couldn't meet the most nicest, caring, most selfless person. But behind that facade is someone that is seeking validation for their efforts. Their ego hides behind the mask of goodness. They are in the town square handing out food and drink to the homeless, all the while recording it to gain recognition and hoping people are applauding their behaviour. The driving force underneath is still the same narcissistic engine, and that's to feel admired and superior. They have built their identity on being the most ethical person, the most caring person, the selfless helper, and perceive themselves as spiritually aware. They sacrifice themselves so their ego can feed on being seen as an exceptional human being. They have performative kindness and moral superiority. Even though they present as selfless, communal narcs feel entitled to admiration and loyalty. Their kindness comes with an unspoken emotional contract. They manipulate through virtue, and because their identity is tied to goodness, they use moral pressure to control others. They make others feel selfish for saying no to demands or commitments. They position themselves as moral authority, and this creates guilt-based influence in others. They must create an image management, and this is to protect their reputation. They do not accept criticism. They will reframe situations to remain the hero. Underneath there is a fragile sense of self-worth and a strong need for validation. There is also a deep-rooted fear of being flawed and ordinary. This courses through their veins, and they want to be admired for their goodness. The thing is, people do things each and every day out of the kindness of their hearts and don't need an audience or recognition. Communal narcs need an audience and recognition, and without that the motivation will fade and resentment will build. The next one is the neglectful narcissist. This type of narc hurts in a different way, and I have discussed this in my Narcissistic Mother vlog. They don't shout, they don't argue, they just don't show up. They are emotionally dismissive, and they make you feel empty and alone. They are completely detached from others and relationships. This type of narcissism is quieter and overlooked. The damage comes from something that should be present but isn't. They are self-absorbed in their own inner world, leaving very little emotional attention for others. They have very little curiosity for others' feelings, and they have minimal emotional warmth. Conversations that they partake in often ends up being all about them. They have difficulty offering comfort, and it feels like speaking into an emotional void. Their attention tends to revolve around their own interests, problems, and internal concerns. They appear to be mentally elsewhere. They don't notice others' needs or mental state. They forget important emotional moments, and they have limited empathy in practice. They harm through absence rather than intrusion. They can provide material support, but little emotional connection. They may understand emotions intellectually, but they struggle to respond with genuine attunement. intellectually. Oh dear me, sorry guys, you know I'm dyslexic. Anyway, we're getting there. So empathy feels more like a concept rather than a lived response. So therefore relationships feel one-sided and shallow. They maintain a quiet distance from emotional intensity and will often avoid deep discussions and emotional conflict. Distance is their comfort zone. The key difference from other narcissistic types is many narcs try to pull attention towards themselves. The neglectful narc fail to turn towards at all and use emotional invincibility as a control mechanism. So the last and final type is the sadistic narcissist. This is the most dangerous narc of all. They use aggression, cruelty, and physical violence to control others. They have no conscience. They represent a dark psychopathy due to their extreme lack of empathy, manipulative behaviour, and harmful tendencies. They actively take pleasure in pain, distress, and humiliation of others. They use sadistic glee for revenge. They are highly manipulative for power, pleasure, profit, and validation. They bully, they abuse, they overpower others, they disregard everyone's needs. They are consistently paranoid, and that fuels their aggressive behaviour. Now, having this type of narc in your life is an interpersonal cruelty like no other. The sadist narcissism goes further than a fragile ego. Their ego is protected through domination and serious harm to others. Because narcissistic personality disorder is a paradoxical illness, it does profound harm to people, no matter the type you're dealing with. However, have that being said, the sadistic narc type is the most serious of all. The combination of the several darker psychological elements make them the most severe. They believe they are powerful, superior, and special rules don't apply to them. People only exist to serve their needs. They have no empathy and no conscience, and this is a cocktail of insidious danger. They justify harming others and rationalise cruelty as deserved. They feed off domination and humiliation. They intentionally provoke emotional and physical pain on others and have no capacity for guilt. So I'm going to finish off by saying, if you are in a narcissistic relationship, please get out and stay out. It's not going to get any better, and the longer you stay, the more it takes from you. You don't need permission to leave something that's causing you harm, and you don't need to feel guilty for their behaviour. You also don't need to manage their behaviour. You also need to know that you can't fix them with love and kindness. You need to run and never look back. So thanks guys for listening, and as always, take good care of yourselves. I'll see you all in the next one, and if you want to reach out to me, you've got my email address.